the I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.
All right, Zachary. And you said you go by Zach mostly, right?
Yes, sir.
Dude,
Yes,
from
sir.
Fox Tintype Portraits. Nice to have you, man.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
Dude, yeah, it's such a fun little, fun service you have. My wife was the one that turned me onto it. She probably just saw social media somewhere, and then she saw you were down at the Double Wide at that time working, and we were like, well, we love that establishment. Worst case scenario, if it's not good, we'll grab a couple beers. But it was awesome, man. We had a great time.
Awesome. I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. So for the listeners, kind of explain what it is, your photography style that you're doing.
Well, it is one of the earliest forms of photography. The process that I use is called wet plate collodion, and it dates back to 1851. So each image is handmade on the spot using chemistry and just a very nuanced hands-on method to where each image takes about 15 to 20 minutes to make. Mm-hmm. From start to finish, everything from pouring the film to then sensitizing it in a dark room, doing the exposure, then hand developing it, taking it from a negative to a positive, and then scanning, varnishing after the session, everything like that. So.
I love how you got the spiel down. Like you said it so, you got it nailed to like, boom, just it's these steps exactly.
Yes,
now.
Sir.
Yeah. How long have you been doing it at this point?
About 4 years. Yeah, 4 years.
I think we saw you maybe this time last year. I can't remember.
Yeah,
I remember it being nice weather, but that's hard to tell in Texas what month that was.
Yeah, it must have been a 2-week time period in either spring or fall.
Exactly. Yeah. No, but it was fun watching the just the process of like once the liquid's in there, it's just that gentle like that rocking.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's tons of skill involved in this that you don't even realize.
Each step is very.
Scoot that kind of right in front of your mouth a little more. Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Each step is very nuanced in the fact of how to pour the chemicals, how to flow the chemicals. They talk to each other very differently depending on a lot of different variables, from humidity to the kind of where your chemicals are at and certain, the acidity of your silver bath. There's a lot of different things that go in there that can either make beautiful images or make you want to scream, So it's a very
humidity. You're talking about just humidity, and we're here in Texas.
Yeah.
It's like how often has that made your day worse? I mean, in the early days, this had to be pretty hard to dial in, right?
Very much so, very much so. And along with that, in the early days too, now I have the luxury of working with stabilized chemicals. So there's certain chemicals that I mix, and there's certain chemicals that I buy from purveyors just to get the consistency and that sort of thing. But back in the day, ether wasn't stabilized like it was now, so people would, that can get pretty
ether.
tricky.
You're like blowing yourself up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad you haven't had that happen to you yet.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah. The so now you have a studio, right?
So,
or where are you working out of mostly now?
I'm working out of a shop right on the edge of Deep Ellum that is a kind of a vintage and home goods store with a coffee shop in it. It's called Hey Nico and Good Boy Coffee. My previous studio was in the Design District last year. I was working out of an artist collective, and at the end of last year, that building sold. So they kicked all the artists out. The classic artists to the streets scenario. But everything ended up working out great. The owners at Hey Nico, that's actually where I did my first pop-up event.
Okay.
So going back in there just kind of made sense. The aesthetic of their business and what I'm doing kind of just easily aligns. So it just made sense to go do that. And so I take appointments out of there, have availability for walk-ins on the weekends, which at the old space wasn't really an option because there wasn't much just foot traffic over on Levy Street in the Design District. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, it's like I really enjoy that part of town, but you're only going over there if you know exactly why you're going there.
Precisely.
Yeah. So do you get to leave everything set up now, or are you still setting it up every time?
Yeah, so everything is staged.
Because just go through, because the setup is huge.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
So kind of go through the setup of the things you're working with.
So typical, for instance, a pop-up setup usually take about a 10 by 10 space to have room to do what I need to do. You have 3 C-stands with high-powered lights.
Yeah. And when you say high-powered, like, when we did ours, it's like, man, when you finally get that pop, that flash, You really feel the heat on it.
Yeah, big
I mean,
fan.
it's high powered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For this probably won't make sense to anybody, but it's you get hit with right around 4,000 watt seconds.
Okay.
And so the reason why back in the day when you see old tintypes from the 1800s especially, they were all longer natural light exposures. So people were having to stay still for extended amounts of time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why everybody, more often than not, was looking so stoic and still.
What do you think extended was then? Like 5 minutes? 10
No,
minutes,
not
3 minutes?
Not that long.
Okay.
The chemistry is only sensitive to UV blue light.
Okay.
And so it takes a lot of light. And along with that, it has a very low ISO. And ISO is basically the amount of light it takes to get an exposure.
Mm-hmm.
So the ISO of collodion is 1 to 3, which means that you need a lot of light. And so back then, I mean, it could be anywhere from 3 to 30 seconds.
Oh,
and
okay.
And it also wasn't uncommon back then for people to only get one photo made in their whole life.
Yeah.
So it was a process, and so more often than not, they had these clamps that would get to the back of your neck and hold you like perfectly still, and it was
just a rod or something behind you,
Yeah.
like a coat rack holding
yeah.
with a clip.
If you look at a lot of the old tintypes, sometimes you can see the stand behind their feet of that would clamp onto their neck, but it takes a lot of light, and so that was a lot of the reasoning for the more expressionless photos back then.
Mm-hmm.
Now with modern lighting, I can hit you with a strobe that is the exposure time is back of a second, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just wham bam, and you'll see stars for a couple seconds.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So how many lights was it again?
3.
3 lights. Yeah. And what was the piece right in front of us?
It's a clamshell reflector.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So what that does is it adds extra pop on your face and then kind of gives a nice little clamshell in the eyes, which everybody always loves.
Yeah. And that's not even like we haven't even got to the actual capture part yet, right? We're just talking about lights and basically a reflector at this point.
Yeah.
So what's the rest of it?
Well, and then the darkroom aspect, I've got my portable darkroom that everything has to be processed in.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I pour the collodion on the plate, which makes the film, and I put that into silver bath, it has to be in red safe light. And so that takes about 3 to 4 minutes to sensitize. And while that's going on, typically I'll be getting people into focus. Then I'll load up the plate holder, come out, hit you with the lights, jump back in the portable darkroom, and develop it.
I forgot about that part where you're like, I'm going to do this first,
Yeah.
and then we'll get ready. I forgot about how it's kind of a back and forth process.
Yeah. It is very much a process, which is one of my favorite things about it, because it gives people an opportunity to slow down and be present, and it's not this instantaneous wham bam. I just took 300 photos of you in less than a minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was something about it wasn't like a negative pressure. It was all an enjoyable experience, obviously. But there was something about the pressure of like, hey, because it is a process, we need to be a little more mindful of like how we're standing, how we're looking.
Exactly.
Because we got one. So it does it just fully wraps you into that moment, which was fun.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
Yeah, the presence of it is nice, and I like to clarify with people, I don't take photos, I make photos.
Oh, yeah.
And because it really is,
Yeah.
there's a difference with that. And when there is so much work that goes into just even getting the plate ready to make an exposure, you think about it a little bit differently. And I think the customer does as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes them mean a lot of the time. I never know why people are showing up, whether it's just for a pop-up event that somebody saw it on social media, or if it's an anniversary, if it's some kind of special moment in somebody's life that they're trying to capture, and that. So the human connection aspect of it is really unique and special because, more often than not, people have never experienced the process before.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of gives me this ability to be this ambassador into the past, and the instantaneous things that we're used to in today's world are great, but they also have their downfalls too. So, I mean, you and I could take a bunch of photos on both of our iPhones, and they're going to look the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's great to be able to keep track of those special moments in your life. But the difference of going to get a portrait like this made too is the archival aspect of it and the heirloom aspect of it. And so, when all the film is basically flaking away and all the hard drives won't fire up and stuff like that, then you'll have this plate with your image made out of silver and chemistry. So it's a very unique thing. And the process is 175 years old, so we know the images will last that long.
Yeah, so at this point, we're kind of in the we're in the unknown. Like every year, one of them lasts longer. We're like, okay, so they last 176 years now.
Yeah.
Wow. Are they even fading at like 175 years?
I mean,
I'm saying like if we find one that's been on a shelf and taken care of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so they're going to age just like anything else, and sometimes the varnish is going to have kind of hairline cracks, and the image will fade.
That just makes it look cooler, though, right? Once it gets some cracks in it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's like all the cool old stuff that patina's the right way. You know, it ends up looking great. Yeah. There is something to be said too about that that physical picture. You know, it's like even today, thinking about this interview, I was flipping through my phone. We have a 5-year-old son now, you know, and it's like we got all these great pictures of him and us that we took on the phone. But I was like, man, I got to figure out what medium, you know, I want to put this in. You know, we don't really do like photo albums anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Because we don't have those old school. I think we're about the same generation where you had the disposable cameras that everybody loved. So it's like you'd get your prints, you'd put them in, and we have all these great photo albums. And it's like, yeah, if something happens to that digital library, it's just all gone. You know, like if Apple, for whatever reason, just, oops, there was a glitch, all your storage is gone, you know. And so I was thinking, like, gosh, there's like, you know, 3,000 pictures in there. What's the process? Like, this is going to take me a full year to kind of go, okay, I'm going to print these off and say, this was this year and this month, and here's what we were doing.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, you know, I got to get this down now and write these memories down, because it's not going to be for me. It's going to be for him later on, most likely. And so for him to be like, well, I wonder how old I was there. So we can go like, oh, this is when you were 3 and we were at this spot or something, you know? And it's hard to do because it's so easy to take those pictures that you forget about that long-term part of it, you know? And, you know, what you're doing, well, we both have a music background, right? So we've seen the transition from, you know, vinyl to cassettes to CDs to digital. And vinyl has still stood the test of time for that same reason, which is people love that tangible object. You know, they like flipping through something and feeling it.
Big time.
And with your portraits, it was like even the weight of it is just fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like your flimsy picture. It's like, oh wow. So,
yeah.
And ours is, you know, it's sitting on our console there in the living room for us to look at, and it's just different enough, and it feels different. You know, there's something more romantic about it, I guess is a good way to say it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Even going to the record, that's a good example as far as, I grew up with my parents. We would go to record and CD stores all the time. That was like part of
flipping through.
Part of the budget was to go buy new music. And when you get to physically dig through things and like touch it, you get this attachment to the artwork, and you get to dig through who the players were and the credits, and which
while the record's spinning, you're fumbling with this and just connecting with this artist more.
Yes, yeah. and then you get this, which to me just makes you more attached to it. And so that then becomes like part of the soundscape of your life, because you have this attachment and memory, not only to like the music and how that makes you feel, but the actual artwork and the memory of acquiring this thing that brings you joy, you know. Yeah.
Are you from DFW originally?
I've been here since mid-90s.
Mid-90s. Okay, so you remember like the, we around here it was like the CD warehouses and those places you could go to. Yeah. And it's like, even just the CDs, it's like you could just flip through and you would see a cool piece of artwork and you'd go, well, I got to listen to it, because they had the free, listen stations and stuff. And it's just so much fun. That is what's missing just from digital world right now. It's like the digital world has its great parts, but there is something about that tangible art that's just so much fun, you know? Yeah. It's funny you talk about, like we're talking about artwork and stuff, and that was one of the things that crossed my mind when we left your experience is I hope there's like just a great local band or somebody who's like, I want to do our full album, like promo stuff, everything with these Tintype photos.
Yeah, big time.
You know what I mean? It would just be such a fun twist. Like when I was looking through your page, I saw, because I was curious, I didn't know if you were doing anything outdoors yet, or if it all had to be kind of in your studio. And then I saw you were doing like some outdoor shots of your buddy with a motorcycle. Yeah. Is that the guy? Is that just a random motorcycle rider, or is that the guy who owns a motorcycle business around here?
No, it's just a friend of mine.
Okay, because his bike is in a style of these people locally called it's like Chemical Candy Customs or something.
They may have had a hand in that bike.
Oh, okay, because it looked like their style of just really cool. And but But yeah, I was like, okay, so he can definitely do this outdoors. So that opens up the possibilities here of exactly what you can. You can get pretty wild with it.
Yeah, the more often than not for my business model, as far as the pop-ups and the studio stuff, is there's consistency with that. And so with outdoor stuff, especially in Texas, once the temperature gets above or below a certain point, the chemistry just doesn't like each other.
Yeah, I forgot about the humidity and the temperature aspect.
And so that basically makes what is a very difficult process even more difficult. And so the natural light stuff is gorgeous. But from a business point and being able to consistently fill a pipeline with that, it's a lot to just roll the dice on. So more often than not, when I see a weekend or a particular time that I know I can get out and rock and roll, then we're good. But we also live in DFW, and
it's hard to play in that.
Yeah.
Well, that just means we've got to get artists who have some deep pockets so we can make it worth your time doing all that hassle scheduling.
Line them up for me, buddy.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think? I mean, you have to now that you're this far into it. But when you're talking about temperature, chemistry, all these things, now go back to, the 1800s. And like, how difficult must it have been for someone back then to keep all those chemicals straight to get something that looked pretty good? I mean, with none of the modern conveniences we have, even just transporting it. Like, I didn't even you're just carrying around weird liquids in your car. Like, you ever afraid of being pulled over by a cop and having to explain what these liquids are?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, I mean, like, what do? You just keep your Instagram up and show them, no, I promise, I'm a photographer.
Well, what's interesting on that, too, is so my chemicals I usually travel with in a little travel cooler. And it's stained with silver nitrate, and it kind of looks suspect anyways. And then the travel case that I travel the actual physical plates in is basically an orange ammo box with like a retrofitted thing in there.
Yeah.
So if I do get pulled over and they see, which they're basically in the front.
Yeah, chemicals in a gun basically is what they're looking at.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this guy's doing something interesting.
I used to do portable recordings, and I would take like this little Zoom recorder and microphones, and I had some stands. And I did the same thing. I found a nice rifle case so I cut the foam out, but it was all for my recording equipment. Yeah. But then it dawned on me one day, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm walking down Deep Ellum with what looks like a rifle case with me. I'm getting some looks. People are crossing the street.
Yeah. All of a sudden, you're that guy.
But those cases are great. They're perfect for this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you been, knock on wood, pulled over with any of that stuff yet and had to explain it away?
No, I was doing an outdoor shoot about a year ago in just east of Dallas, out off of like a farm to market road. And I saw a state trooper make a U-turn because he saw my portable darkroom set up on that. But I had my camera out, and he kind of put it together, but he just sat there and watched me for about 15 minutes. And then I waved him over to show him what I was working on.
Yeah.
So
offer him a free picture while he's there?
Yeah. He didn't smell the weed or anything.
Right. Yeah. Man, that's awesome. Have you done much like nature photography with it?
I'm actually going up to Colorado in June.
Yeah.
So I'll be doing some of that up there, and then
is that going to be more difficult? About the same?
No, well,
because you got all that beautiful natural light, but you have the elements, right?
Yeah. So it depends on elevation.
And one more factor, huh?
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously the higher you go up, the faster. So when I pour the chemistry,
that's the boiling point, right?
Well, you just have to time things differently. And so when you're pouring the collodion on the plate and flowing it and everything like that, you basically want to get it to a point to where it kind of tacks up as a film, and then you submerge it into your silver bath. Well, when you're in drier air, that's going to dry out quicker. So the way how you flow your chemicals, the speed into which you get it into your bath might change a little bit. And as far as working that, I mean, it is wet plate, so you're always on a timeline, because if the plate dries out, then you're
So what happens when it dries too soon? Is it just incomplete, or is the contrast off?
You're not going to get the result that you want.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was noticing in person, and then even in like your clips that you share, it's like the way you're kind of sloshing that liquid around,
Yeah.
Which slosh is the wrong term. It's very carefully done, but it's almost like the way somebody like flips pasta.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this muscle memory thing that looks so easy, but I know if you try it for the first time, you're just splashing everything everywhere, you know?
A lot of it's muscle memory.
Yeah.
I mean, from each chemical pours and flows a little bit differently. So, I mean, basically do it a couple thousand times and then you'll just be able to do it in your sleep.
Yeah, I remember you telling me a little bit about the process, but, go ahead and elaborate about how you got into this because you saw someone else who knew how to do it and they were kind of showing you the tricks of the trade, I guess?
Yeah, so I was introduced to the process itself by a woman that was here in Dallas named Ellen Wishart, and which was probably 2018.
Okay.
And so met her through a friend of a friend, went and got a portrait and was just very much enamored with the whole process.
So that's how you started getting your own portrait.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
cool.
Yeah.
So and so the whole experience itself, I mean, I left that just being like, wow, this is really, really special. And Ellen is just a wonderful human being. So fast forward to a couple years after that, late 2020, I had kind of an interesting kind of pivot in life. And so,
I think a lot of people did that year.
Yeah, it was a weird one, man.
It was a tough year.
It was a weird year. So, between things shutting down and personally, I went through a divorce.
Oh,
and
wow.
so, which presented me with this opportunity to kind of reevaluate how I wanted my future to look.
I mean, yeah, divorce and a pandemic will make you just look at everything.
Yeah, I mean, if that doesn't, I don't know what will. You know? So,
yeah, that's a lot of life changing.
But the combination of the two, I mean, it ended up working out because it gave me this moment in time to kind of look at hey, what do I want to do? What's important to me? And not having the, I guess, to the compromise which everyone has to have in a household, in a relationship to make it work, gave me the ability to, I guess, take a little bit more of a risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
because it's just on you now if it doesn't work, right?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
scary, but freeing, but still scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a different kind of scary.
Yeah. It's good scary.
Yeah.
But it could all fall apart.
Yeah. And so, when I was kind of thinking I knew whatever I wanted to do professionally, I wanted to be able to provide a service to people. I wanted to be able to have an ability to create and be expressive, and then also be able to travel and kind of create things by my own rules.
Yeah.
And so this checked all the boxes when I was looking at that, and I reached out to Ellen and was like, hey, remember me? Will you please
Yeah,
show
because this
me
had been,
this?
2-3 years at this point?
Yeah.
Wow.
And she was kind enough to welcome me into her dojo and show me
That's awesome.
show me the ropes. Yeah, I mean,
Was she psyched about it, or was she like, who's this person who wants to, I spent all this time on this craft and they just want me to teach them right now? Some people are weird about sharing those skills.
Yeah, and rightfully so. I mean, I think there's a couple different schools of thought on that, because there are, what this particular form of photography and art form is very niche, and it's people put in their work and their hours and their time to do it. So not everybody is just like, here you go, here's everything that I learned on the fast track.
Yeah. Well, and I would imagine too that even if they were willing, how many people are going to be like, are going to think, oh, this is going to be a fun thing. I'll spend a weekend, figure out how to do it. And then when they realize it's harder than that, now you've wasted your own time trying to show them and they're not interested. And it's like,
Exactly.
You get burned on it.
Yeah. So, her and I had a very just groovy connection and very much just jived personally. And so,
you said you're a musician as well, right?
Yeah.
That's probably why. Because when you were saying that, I was thinking about how many people have asked me to teach them to play guitar in the past.
Yeah.
And you tell them hey, just to even feel like you're playing, this might take you a year.
Yeah.
Especially as an adult where you have responsibilities. You're not a teenager just sitting on the edge of your bed playing hours and hours a day. I was like, if you practice a couple times a week, this is going to take you about a year just to like play some chords.
Yeah.
Now you feel like you're just barely playing. And when they hear that time commitment, they're like, maybe I won't buy a guitar, you know? And so I'm assuming this is a similar process. There's going to be a lot of trial and error going on with this, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, now there's definitely some more material on YouTube and some more kind of things that you can reference and dig in and learn to yourself. But so much of the steps are nuanced. So much of the chemistry is potentially dangerous or is dangerous.
Yeah.
And so having somebody to be able to show you what to do and what not to do is fantastic, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't have held it against her if she would have told me no.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the fact that she said yes, I mean, I'm grateful for her every day, man.
Yeah. That's really cool. I mean, she probably saw, you know, if you're that interested to talk to her about it 3 years later.
Yeah.
You know, you can feel when people really want to learn something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Is she still doing it?
So she moved, everything kind of worked out. It was one of like in retrospectively, it's like kind of like the universe kind of making things all right. But when I started getting comfortable on my own, I had apprehension to just go into direct competition with my mentor, obviously.
Yeah. Why would you do that, right?
You know, there's not that many of us. She was the only one in Dallas. And that's just it's a slippery slope there.
Yeah, because you're also excited about doing it. I want to do it. I want to learn. I want to get better. And
Yeah.
you need clients to do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so as soon as I was getting kind of comfortable on my own 2 feet, she moved to Austin to pursue a different path and has since had a kid and is just down there doing her thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we talked recently and she's doing great, man.
Do you hear that popping? Is that me or is that you?
I didn't.
You hear what I'm talking about?
I didn't catch it.
Oh, I felt like somebody was tapping the table or something, but never mind. Maybe I'm just going crazy over here. Anyway, so, man, how great is that, though, that you didn't even have to think about stepping on each other's toes? It just kind of worked out.
Yeah, just kind of.
Yeah. And to be close enough, too, it's like Dallas and Austin. It's like y'all can still cross paths, and now you can talk shop and have a good time with it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's exciting. How long had she been doing it? Do you remember? She
was active, at least in Dallas, for probably 5-6 years.
Wow.
And had been digging into the craft and other types of photography before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, so you're at about the same experience level now, right? You're right at about 5 years if you started around 2020, 2021?
Slowly but surely getting there.
Yeah. Well, at that point, do you feel like, you know, I mean, obviously you're grasping it. You're capturing beautiful. What do you say? You're creating beautiful photographs. Is that how you said it? Yeah. We're not taking. We're creating. So clearly you've got it down. But how much of it do you feel like there is to explore and get even better at now?
It's kind of limitless, to be honest. I mean, there's so many different variables and interpretations that you can approach it with.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, everybody that's making tintypes is using the same process, but they could be using different gear, different lenses, different formulas for the chemistry.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different variables that you can use to kind of make it your own. And a lot of it's personal preference, man. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all art. And so just make what you like.
So how do you feel like the styles change then? Like, would you say that yours look a certain way compared to even your mentors?
Yeah.
What's kind of the differences?
I mean, between a lot of it's lens stuff.
Okay.
A lot of people in the process use old big brass lenses that have their own qualities to them and have their own just kind of beauty with the old glass, and it's very period correct for the process.
What's that like? More like, is it more hazy since it's old lens, or
not particularly hazy? I mean, some of them are super sharp.
Okay.
But they just have their own kind of tonal qualities to them and just their own kind of unique qualities. And I mean, for instance, what I'm using now is more of a modern lens that's razor sharp. And so that's kind of what, for the work that I'm doing at this moment in the process, I mean, my work is sharp and clean.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I like at the moment. And I mean, who knows where that'll go in the future? You know,
Yeah.
I could get.
What are you thinking about experimenting here recently? Like, there's got to be something on your mind.
I'm going to be doing so within the process within wet plate. You can do tintypes or ambrotypes. Ambrotypes are glass.
Okay.
And so what I do for pop-ups now are mostly 4x5s and 5x7 tintypes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be moving towards, especially with the landscape stuff, doing like 8x10 ambrotypes.
Wow.
And doing series of those to where they're one of one, and then doing auction stuff with those.
So is the challenge as you go larger just more light? I need more light, or what's, you know? By the way, are you purchasing a camera for this, or is this something you got to like build yourself?
I mean, you could do both. I just bought it.
You found one to buy. Okay,
Yeah.
so do you have to buy a new camera for the different sizes, because the plate drops in the camera, right?
Yeah.
Like, is the one you have now, the one I remember using, is that large enough for an 8x10?
No, that was an old. You would have.
I think I have.
I was using
a.
I was using a 4x5.
Okay.
When you guys came in, I've got an 8x10 now.
But it's a whole
has-
separate camera.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it has reducing backs. So so I can take the back off and put a 5x7 or a 4x5 on the back of that camera.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Whew. Yeah. I mean, just the equipment. I mean, even modern photography is like that, but I imagine there's not the regular, shop you can just pop into for this stuff around here. It's probably a little more special order.
Yeah. Well, and luckily now it's interesting because it's so much of the stuff that I use is 3D printed.
Oh yeah. That's a big game changer for this.
Yeah.
That's real interesting.
Which, it's definitely not the purest route to go within the process.
Yeah.
But it's functional and it's affordable. And
And if you're hung up on the purest route, it's like, don't use flashes and start clipping their necks again like they used to. You know what I mean? Like
which is fine.
It's our modern twist of this classic.
Yeah.
Yeah. How big is the community for it in terms of the people who are creating these? Like, can you go online and find your people to throw these hardball questions out to?
Yeah. So, I mean, what I've experienced, there's not that many of us. A couple numbers that I've heard tossed around from different purveyors and other tintype artists is maybe 10 to 15,000 of us in the whole world.
Wow.
And out of that amount, probably back of 1,000 that are doing it for a living.
Yeah. Actively. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big difference, right? If you're dependent on the money for it, your craft becomes much sharper than a hobbyist can still be great, but when you're doing it just actively every day.
Well, I heard a quote lately along the lines of the difference of really going for something opposed to it being a hobby is not giving up when it gets hard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The hobbyist is going to have a certain ceiling because of how much do you need to get better?
Yeah. Yeah, when it's just for fun, you can stop when it's not fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can always go, that quit. It wasn't that fun anymore. But still, 1,000 active people, that's enough where, like, have y'all ever thought about, somebody needs to hold an event where y'all gather together and just meet and hang out?
Those do happen.
Okay.
There's several that happen throughout the years. And I mean, a handful of us travel around. I've been very fortunate to meet some wonderful people within the wet plate community. And more often than not, everybody that I chat with online is extremely warm. And
that's cool.
There's not that many of us. So, I mean, of course, there's going to be some that are, warmer than others.
Well, yeah,
and
that's just
that
people,
you drive
right?
with. Yeah, exactly. It's a numbers game, but it's a really, really neat community to be in.
I mean, you got to be a little cool when you have a cool hobby like that, because it takes a certain amount of like, even if you're meticulous and you enjoy photography, there's just a cool aspect to this style of photography in general that would make you want to go towards it.
Yeah.
Someone who's a little uptight, probably not going to want to go this route, because especially with your clientele, I imagine, are people who also appreciate the that these are a more artistic style of photographs. Like you said, this is an event for them. Like, oh, Saturday we're gonna go out and do this. You know, because we were doing the same thing. You know, you're at work, and I was like, oh yeah, my wife, you know, she set us up for this thing. It seems pretty cool. I don't know what it is. Once we get there, I'll check it out, but it sounds great. And then the week after, you're like, oh my gosh, check this out. So we went, no, he's going to send us the physical one here soon or something. I can't remember. Did we take the physical one home with us that day?
If it was at Double Wide,
we picked it up at Double Wide.
Yeah, you picked it up the following week.
But even that was fun. It was like an excuse for us to go get a drink and be like, let's go. Oh, we're just sitting there at the bar. Look at this thing. Feel it. Hold it. You know, it was fun. And, you know, of course, we still have a digital copy of it, but that one is so much more fun. But yeah, I can imagine the group of people going into that would be overall pretty interesting. Have you thought about, you know, I don't know how portable this stuff is for you yet, you know, and how just difficult it is, but I was thinking about how, I don't know if something like that would be fun at like a festival where there's, you know, 30,000 people, or if that would just be a nightmare of you to try to get all this work done in that one day, you know? I
mean, it is... You earn your money on those days.
Have you done something like that before?
Yeah, I've done a handful of festivals and events and stuff like that. Personally, I like to work at a pace that is the pace that I can have more quality control and space that you can mitigate. So those things come with their own challenges, but you also get the exposure and never know who you're going to meet on that. And that's the beauty of those festivals and that sort of thing. So it's interesting. A lot of things with stuff like that too is time of year, location.
I keep forgetting about that outside part. Yeah, we can't just throw you in a tent all the time, right?
No, you could.
I mean, but I mean, results may vary, right? Which I don't know. That could be fun in its own, you know, depending on how. I can't remember what the style is. There's this thing with Japanese culture where, like, if you break a vase or something, you have a nice piece of.
I know exactly
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then you just fill the cracks in with gold, and so over time it just becomes more beautiful and kind of like that. It's like, well, maybe it messes up in a cool way, a fun way, but you know, I don't know. What about, like, have you ever thought about, or have you had the opportunity to set up shop at like a wedding? That would be really fun.
I have one next Sunday.
This will be the first one?
No, I've done a couple.
Okay, because that has to go really well there, right?
Yeah.
Indoors, everybody's drinking, having a good time. They're all dressed up.
Yeah, no, the wedding gigs are fun. There's a little bit more pressure on those days because of the timelines of things and the everything. It's somebody's biggest day of their life. So, you know, the pressure that comes along with getting that one.
Were you taking it as like, you weren't like the photographer, were you?
No.
Oh, okay. No. I was like, they didn't put that much pressure on you, did they?
No.
Like they're on the altar and you're setting all your stuff up.
I still have my limitations as far as
Okay,
volume,
I was going to say,
so,
okay. When you do something like that, how many plates do you come with? Right, because you have to bring a plate for each picture, right?
Yeah, it depends on volume. Depends on. I mean, the last wedding that I did, I was basically the gift from the bride and groom to their wedding party and family. So all of their wedding party and their family got tintypes.
Oh, that's cool.
And
so while the guests are all mingling,
yes,
you're part of that picture. Oh, that's pretty great.
Yeah.
Because I was initially thinking just, you know, you got a booth where people can pop in as they please, but that's probably better for you where it's a little more set up. But yeah, I mean, what's the turnaround time when you work at your pace? Like when you're in the moment, it's about, you said it was about what, 5 to 10 minutes?
For an hour. I mean, that's when it's just me. If I bring on an assistant that is kind of keeping my station, doing all like the rinsing and stuff like that, I can squeeze out a couple more.
So how long did it take you to get the full wedding party done?
Them 3 hours.
Okay, so you just kind of let them do their thing throughout the wedding, and then a planner or somebody brings them over, like, okay, mom and dad are ready. Like, oh, that's cool. That works out great. Man, what a fun wedding. And then I'm sure they're all freaking out in the middle of the wedding too, like, oh, ours was done. Look. Yeah, that's a good time, man. Yeah, I guess nobody got too drunk and like fell over your equipment or anything, right?
No.
I think that would be my fear is some of your, you know, big expensive lights just get knocked over or something. But
more often than not, people are pretty. It's so bright and so bulky, anyways.
Yeah.
That more often than not, people are pretty good with.
Yeah,
that
unless you're just that right amount of wasted, where you're like a moth to a flame.
Yeah.
Or somebody's too confident. Is like, take a picture of me doing a backflip. I promise I can nail it.
Yeah.
Have you got to do any? We talked about this style where you got to focus on being so still, right? But has anyone in your community have y'all messed with the blur for artistic purposes? Like, has anyone tried to capture the blurriness in a fun way?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Almost like a time lapse, but not quite.
I'm sure they have.
It seems like you could get some real interesting things out of that.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's definitely some legs for artistic expression there.
That's probably half of the old ghost pictures, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that old process.
Yeah.
What was really fascinating too is the way your character changes. Like, I don't know how to describe it. You know how you look at a lot of those old pictures and you think, was everybody just miserable in that time period? And it's not just the smile. Like, sometimes they look rougher, and sometimes they were.
Yep.
But now I get so curious because now when you see these modern pictures and like on your profile, it's like some of these people they just have gorgeous poses, and the camera loves them so much, you know? And, but even them, there's like a seriousness to it, I guess, it's hard to describe. And it makes me just kind of reevaluate. It's like, I think when you watch documentaries that are all in black and white and you've only ever seen these pictures where people aren't smiling, you just think like life was so hard then all the time. It's like, I think it might have been better than I thought. It's just the pictures don't really do that. But now that we kind of know that, it's like now I notice, because I think in some of your directions you brought that up about how if you're trying to do these big smiles, it could come off a little strange. And so it's like kind of be conscious of how you're going to pose and look. Yeah. But I've noticed you've got a lot of people, I don't know if they're just photogenic people or if they have a background of like modeling or what, but they figured out how to do those kind of in-between smirks where they get that happiness through without it being a full-on smile. And it's pretty interesting. But like mine, I really love it. But it's like I look so serious in mine. Oh, yeah. Just so like, this man's about to, I don't know, go hunt something, then fix the truck, and don't talk to him. He's going to go to bed after that. Like,
stay off my land.
Exactly, yeah. But, I mean, have you had anyone just full teeth smile yet?
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people, I give people my suggestions on it. And just from my experience on doing thousands of these things is soft smile to a smirk, enough to make a dimple pop.
Yeah.
Is good. The stoic in the lens is always safe.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when people go full blown, like happy to see you smile, it translates like, here's Johnny kind of like intensity, which is not warm and fuzzy. But then again, I tell people it's your portrait. So if you want to smile and look like a psychopath, then
it's for you, right?
It's for you.
You could do a whole, like once you get to a point with your business where, you're not thinking so much about where you don't have to think about the business side quite as much, I guess. You know what I mean? You could start doing kind of like art galleries of this where you picked a style like that. Hey, let's just get 30 people just crazy cheesing, smiling, and seeing how interesting these things can look, and get real weird with it and see what are the boundaries of this. And I think that'd be so much fun. How theoretically, how big can you make one of these?
I mean, there's people that do plates that are 16 by 24 and even bigger than that. Is there a limiting factor to the plate and the chemicals? Is it just physically it becomes so cumbersome? Is that it? Or will they literally it'll just break if you make it that big? There's just a lot of different aspects that go into it. Once you get to a certain size, every single component has to be basically retrofitted for that. So nothing's off of the shelf. When you get into the sheer cost of the chemistry, the amount of silver that you have to have, I keep forgetting it is literally silver. Yeah, which has its own cost. Yeah, it's not getting any cheaper. And so and not only that too, the way how you have to flow chemicals is totally different. The amount of chemicals that you have to use, extra safety precautions that go with that. Just dealing with that much chemistry. Yeah, you probably have to wear respirators and things at that point, right? Precisely. Yeah. They find you passed out in the garage. Yeah. Have you had any scares like that where you spilled a chemical or something? No, there's the closest, really the most dangerous thing that I deal with is silver nitrate. which is what makes the plates light sensitive. And so for a bath to be functional and make images, it needs to be at a particular gravity of silver. It needs to be at a particular pH. And that has to be maintained constantly and filtered and just juggled to be able to make images. And
silver nitrate's flammable, right?
it's not flammable, but it does stain. So if you look at my hands, I mean, my hands always have black stuff on them.
Uh-huh.
So that's silver nitrate.
Okay.
And it stains anything that's organic. And so if I get a little bit of that on me, this will wash off in a couple days. And this I'm not worried about. It's not enough to mess you up, but if it gets in your eyes, you're blind.
Ew.
And so
I don't remember you wearing glasses when you were doing this either.
So
were you?
when I'm filtering, when I'm doing any kind of silver bath maintenance, I always have protective eyewear on.
Okay, we must have just been enjoying our beers when you were doing that part.
Yeah, and then once I'm in the dark, I mean, with the size plates that I'm doing, and the amount of in my dark room, I've got my method down very, very. I'm not worried about it. But I did, when I got a new plate holder that has a magnetic back, like the closest call I ever had is I didn't dry the plate off as good as I should when I put it in there. The back snapped and I felt liquid come up and hit my eyelid. And so I immediately go flush my eyes out and everything like that. But that was enough of a close call.
That's scary.
So, yeah.
God, that's scary.
Yeah.
That's like, I don't know how much you've ever used like a saw or anything, but it's like, when you're going to make like a real short, quick cut and you're like, the glasses are over there and you're like, it's okay, I'll do the professional, like the squint method where like that's going to protect me.
Yeah.
And then like a little splinter of something flies and you're like, I got to get the glasses. I'll be right back. So scary, man.
Yeah.
Your eyes are so final when those get damaged.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of the chemistry is dangerous and potentially dangerous. There's particular things within. I mean, collodion is a mixture of alcohol, ether, and different iodides and bromides, which are salts.
Is collodion silver? Is that what you're saying, or is it collodion?
No, so it's just collodion. You're thinking of
colloidal.
Yes,
that's the stuff people used to drink, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So collodion is what actually makes the film.
Gotcha.
And so the process is called wet plate collodion. And so that's what makes the film. That's a mixture of ether, alcohol, different salts. Some of the different salts that are in there, like cadmium, is a carcinogen. There's certain things in there that are gnarlier than others. So you have to be able to know that, and then be able to treat these things with respect and handle them in a way that is safe. And so that was, learning from Ellen from the get-go. She was very much, stress that of get to know what you're working with and know what you're actually handling. And a lot of time what I tell people too is, you get more, dangerous stuff in your garage a lot more time if you got Roundup and all that nasty stuff. But
it doesn't.
So it's like,
it doesn't feel that way when you're outdoors. Working on the lawn or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, to my earlier question, I guess if you decided I'm going to do one of these that's 6 feet by 4 feet, that just sounds ridiculous now when you think about those chemicals, right?
Yeah.
You're basically, I need a swimming pool to put this in.
Yeah, I need an angel investor to throw me the money to do that.
Yeah. Do you think you're on like a watch list or anything buying all these chemicals now?
I don't know.
Do you think there's
probably for other reasons than that?
Where do you buy this stuff? You just go on Amazon?
No, I've got a couple people or a couple companies that are just kind of the industry standard purveyors for these things.
What other people, who buys ether?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like, I would think that's a hard thing to, you don't just go down to the store, pick up some ether, right? Yeah.
Well, in the original Fixer recipe, which Fixer is what I pour on there that takes it from a negative to a positive. Mm-hmm. The original recipes for that, have cyanide in them. and a lot of people still use a Fixer recipe with cyanide in it.
And you can just go pick up some cyanide, or you pick it up pre-mixed, I guess.
I haven't bought it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not on the list for that yet.
Yeah. Man, that's pretty wild. Just those little things. Because also too, it's like who is out there selling ether, going like, this is a good business. You know? Like, Because that was the issue going back to vinyl records. It's like, you remember, it's like when it was going away, there literally weren't any plants and there weren't any machines that were pressing vinyl records anymore.
Yeah.
So it was a big deal if you found an old machine to refurbish it, keep it working, and then now finally modern people have been saying, like, let's build machines because this business is going. But yeah, it's like you could quickly, like, if people just aren't making those chemicals anymore, it could go away.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I usually bounce back and forth between a couple different companies just for kind of to have the relationship with both of them, but just to make sure that if one of them shut down shop tomorrow, then I'm not sitting around going, what am I doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Is that scary at all? Thinking you're dependent on that,
No.
Okay.
Other stuff scares me way more than that.
Okay, good. With the business or just in general?
Probably just in general.
Yeah, just in general. Yeah, that's wild, man. I love these artistic endeavors that you were talking about quality. How just you have to fixate on quality, or it's not really going to work, is it?
Yeah, well, I think it's a lot of it is what I had to learn getting in this is like having the courage to make mistakes over and over again, which is not like my default nature, and so to be able to learn how to give yourself the grace and the space to be able to fail over and over again without discouraging you and just giving up was kind of a process within itself, and so there's an old Terrence McKenna quote that hung with me years ago, and it was along the lines of the universe rewards courage. And once you kind of fling yourself into the abyss, you realize it's a feather bed,
Yeah.
But in order to do that, in order to succeed, you have to be able to have the courage to do it. So it's like, if there's a couple things that smother that, it's fear and shame and those things that everybody deals with. So it's like trying to reverse engineer. Basically, it's like, well, if you can stop being scared about unreasonable stuff and stop, focusing on things that bring you shame, then like you can muster up the courage to be able to do something extraordinary. And so I'm just going to lean on that until it fails me.
It's a great outlook, though. I mean, I'm more that route. Like, if I want to do something or if I want to learn something, I'm going to try it. Yeah. I'm happy to fail at it. Yeah. I don't care. And now most of the people that I'm close with, they know. It's like if I tell them I'm trying something, they're like, of course, yeah. Why wouldn't you try that, right?
Yeah.
He does this now. But I try to, you try to get your friends psyched about things. Like, I'm that person, if you're wanting to try a hobby and you're going to spend a couple hours with me chatting about it, whatever, I'm going to try to get you psyched about it. Because for one, I'm usually pretty excited about it. I'm like, that would be really cool. Even something more basic and more common, like, we have a friend, she loves, wine, and she has this dream. Oh, gosh, the dream would be like to own a vineyard or something, and all that. It's like, well, what does this talk about? It's like, do you know how many people just, like, you could try to start making some wine right now. Just make some wine in your backyard, in your garage, whatever you're going to do. Learn all those mistakes you're going to learn on this small scale and figure out, which path do I even enjoy making? Maybe I thought I loved making this type of wine, but I really love making this type of wine, and you're not going to do it. I think what it is it's a mixture of the only real reason to not get into any hobby you're kind of thinking about would be if it's going to make you go completely broke and there's never a chance of making that money back, and it's like going to ruin your life financially, I guess, right? Yeah. But even then, to a point, it's like if you're spending money on it, but it improves your quality of life because you enjoy something you're doing, that's not really a waste. I'm just saying if it keeps you from paying your bills and you're about to lose everything, that's the only legitimate reason. Yeah. But usually it's just, I don't know, it's going to cost me money. I'm going to have to buy this. I'm going to have to buy that. It's like, okay, well, buy it as you can, slowly get into it. But I think the bigger reason is, one, I think they'll be embarrassed about telling their friends, like, I'm going to try this. They don't know how people are going to react to that. Yeah. Oh, that's stupid. Don't do that. And the reality is none of your friends are going to do that. They're going to go, oh, that sounds cool.
Well, and I mean, at the end of the day, if there's if someone speaks to you enough that makes you passionate enough to dig into it, and the people in your life don't see that that's special to you, then like, man, there's a different conversation.
Exactly. Let's reevaluate. Let's find the people who are psyched about you starting something new.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, first of all, it's like, that's rare that's going to happen. If these are good friends, they won't understand it, but they'll be supportive.
Exactly.
And then the second part is you'll try it, and it's not even that you're going to fail at it. It's that you're going to have to tell people later you failed at it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, well, don't worry about that. They're still your friends. They're not going to care. They're going to go, yeah, we thought that was going to be a little hard for you, but okay. No, that didn't work. All right. Well what's the next thing?
Well, there's also even in the event of a failure, it's like I would much rather live with a failure than a regret of never starting.
100%.
You know, and that to me would resonate and bring my vibes down way more than knowing that I went for something and it just didn't pan out the way that I expected it to.
You know, and now you know, right? That itches off your back. It's like, I know. I tried it. Wasn't for me. I don't have to think about it anymore. Yeah. But also just, I mean, you know, it's like with the failures. Even on a granular level, like within the process of your photography, every failure teaches you that valuable lesson, right? It's like, okay, but on a larger level, it's like the hobby failed. But how much did you learn about yourself attempting this hobby that's positive, where it's like, hey, I got this far. I learned a couple things I never knew before.
Yeah.
I was able to figure this out, you know. I think people forget that's really the fun part of the hobby. It's not being an expert at it. It's that path the whole way of just figuring out all these fun steps that goes into whatever it may be. And then eventually before you know it, you're like, oh, I kind of know a lot about this now.
Yeah.
You know, each week I learned like one little new thing, and now I'm capturing pictures out here, and like people are going home with my work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty. Do you remember your first couple attempts? Were you doing portraits with friends, or how were you doing that?
Yeah, I mean, outside of so learning with Ellen in her studio.
Were you basically kind of being like an assistant while she was working with clients, or was she just teaching you on the side?
A little of that. So
okay.
we had our one-on-one sessions to where we were just going through the process and doing portraits together. And then I would come in
just taking each other's portraits.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, and then I would come in and just kind of shadow her while she was working with customers and just kind of keep station clean, that sort of thing. And
what a great, I mean, yeah, you learn a lot from shooting or from performing, right? But that process of, okay, you've tried a few, and now with your new knowledge, sit back and watch these.
Yeah.
And then even just watching, you're like, oh, so she does it that way.
Yeah.
I was thinking I was going to do it this way. She does it that way. Just rewatching, you know, teaches you so much. She sounds like a great teacher, by the way.
No, she was fantastic, man. We had a really, really, really good experience working together, and it was a little trailer, so it was tight quarters.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was groovy. And to observing, one thing that really, really stuck out to me as I was watching her was just these interactions that she would have with these strangers that would be showing up for, you know, whatever their reason was. And it was like, from sitting back and watching, I'm like, this is a really special moment.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, what a cool gig to be able to just spend the half hour with these folks and give them something that, you know, hopefully just makes them happy. You know, I mean,
yeah. You're like on the complete opposite end of the person who has to answer the phone calls at the airport for lost luggage.
Yeah.
You know, like you think about a job like that and you're like, phew, everyone you talk to is upset.
Yeah.
Everyone is having a bad day.
Yeah.
That's a rough gig when everyone's upset. But the flip side of that is everyone who's coming to see you chose to be there and is pretty excited, pretty happy.
Yeah, more often
that's got to be a fun feeling.
More often than not, man. I've had some really, really wonderful, just beautiful human interactions with people that were just very, 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 very touching, man.
Have you thought about your personal connection to these people, right? Because this is the longest I've gotten to talk to you. Like when we talked on the day, you know, but it's a shorter interaction. But I was talking to my wife about it. I was like, you know, every time we look at this picture, I was like, in the back of our minds, we're still going to be seeing Zach. Like, you're still going to remember that day. So it's like you're slowly, much different than like if we were in the, 80s or 90s and you go take like a Sears family portrait. Yeah. It's like there's still a portrait photographer there, but it's just, you don't remember that person. That's not the same, you know. And this one, I think, because the interaction you're talking about, it's like you're kind of forever connected to that picture. They won't ever go, some guy. I don't remember him. They'd be like, oh no, we met this guy, Zach. He was running this company. We met at this bar, or we met at wherever the pop-up is, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, like you're always going to be, have you ever thought about how you visually are going to be in their minds for taking these now? It's almost like you put your own little portrait in their head.
Well, it's just kind of part of it, man. It's the, I look at myself as an artist, not as a photographer. And so, I mean, when we're making a portrait, like this is a collaborative thing, you know, like the customers are part of it too. And so the whole interaction it's part of the experience. So like the tintype is great, but like the experience is what I like really like, really love. And because you do like, you just get to, there's not that many people. I'm in a position to get to show people something that I find like truly beautiful. And there's a good chance they've never seen it before. There's a good chance that they might not ever see it again. And so I take that seriously, man, because it's my life.
Yeah.
And I want that to ring through with people through our interaction. You know, I'm like happy that and grateful that people choose to spend some time and money with me, man. You know, it's like I'm just trying to create something out of nothing. And so when anybody shows up, it's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah. Were you initially scared about, you know, the making it a business, asking for money, you know?
Yeah.
What were the fears around that?
Do people even care about this? You know, it's one thing. We can get ourselves in trouble by like projecting our own like love and appreciation for something onto others that might not speak to them the way it speaks to us. And so when you're talking about something that's as niche as this, that I'm like, I'm going to make this my whole entire life. You know, other people are like, what is this guy doing? What is he doing?
Yeah.
You know, and so being okay with that and just saying, I'm just going to do this until hopefully, you know, the Metroplex is an interesting area. You know, I wouldn't necessarily be able to do this in the middle of, you know, Missouri. So there's 8 million people here. So if you can't try something weird and make it happen in Dallas, then good luck, bud.
Yeah, and we have the extra benefit that if you've grown up in North Texas or if you've lived here any length of time, you know, a drive, a commute is nothing for you. You know, we're all used to a 45-minute drive somewhere, which means you have access to these customers who are fine, like, oh yeah, we're going to drive to wherever from wherever they live. They're fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I can't remember what's the dollar amount that you're charging for those you said we probably did a 4x5?
Yeah, so the prices, so if you were to book online right now,
prices may change by the time you listen to this episode.
Yeah,
so,
well, they've gone up since you got one.
Well, that's why I was going to ask you, and because I was going to ask you about like, you know, I wanted you to speak to when you're first starting this. You're thinking, I'll charge this much, but it is a niche thing, right?
Yeah.
And it is a quality product, and you're getting better and better as it goes. So naturally, the urge is, you know, I don't necessarily need to be concerned with volume now that I've got my quality down. I can charge a little more, and we can take a little more time and have more of that experience, you know? So I was kind of just curious about how you feel about, you know, when you initially set prices versus how you feel about pricing now, you know?
I mean,
I don't even know what those prices are, but I know when people do these things is once you get better at it, prices naturally go up a little, and they should, because it's a quality thing. Yeah. You know, you're getting what you pay for at this point. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting, you know, something to answer your question, if you want a 4x5 now, it's $100. 5x7's $120. You can get, and then you can do like a bundle for $300 for 3 5x7s.
Yeah. Which seems fair, by the way. Like when I hear those numbers.
Well, thank you.
When I hear those numbers, I don't think, who does this guy think he is? You know?
Yeah.
Because it is, you know, it's like just even talking here. I thought about it before we ever went, but now I think about it more. It's like, as it is with all art, it's like you don't think about like the cost of the chemicals, the cost of the plates, the cost of the equipment, the maintenance of things, the travel time, all the stuff that goes just for us all to be here for a quick little.
Yeah.
You know?
What's 10,000 hours cost?
Exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. But sorry, go ahead. You were talking about the pricing and you were kind of telling me your philosophy on that.
But no, I mean, this as far as setting prices, and so much of this, what's kind of it's interesting because it's kind of a double-edged sword with this particular thing. You know, there's not, with there being so few of us that do this, and then out of the ones that are doing it successfully, you know, what that means is there's not this just mode path in front of you to be able to say, hey, if you want to be a successful tintype photographer, this is what you do. And to where, for instance, you know, if you want to go be a sales manager, if you want to go be a realtor, then like, buddy, you can figure that out.
Yeah, here's a plan.
Because here's what the successful people are doing. There's a bajillion references to show you how to go get them. So there isn't that with this. There's a handful of references that are people are doing great work and staying busy and making a living. But that can also change by the market. That can also change.
Well, and even they're doing what you're doing. They're like, it's working for me right now.
Yeah.
And it feels good, but it could change.
Exactly. And so with some of that stuff too, I think it's, you have to have the ability to pivot pretty quick doing this. And you also have to have the ability to be like, this is what I do. And this is what I charge. And if you're not okay with that, then you're not my customer. And that's cool. You know, I mean, I'm not, it's what I'm doing isn't for everybody. And, you know, the people that it is for seem to really dig it. So, you know, that makes me,
I mean, when you
happy.
say $100, you know, what I think about is like last year when we went to do, you know, just some fall family pictures.
Yeah.
And sure, we get more volume, you know, we're getting more pictures. But, you know, what people charge for that can get a little pricey.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've heard.
And then, of course, you know, wedding photography, it's like once you attach wedding to anything, the price goes up, right?
Yeah.
And so I do feel like it's at a bargain. I wouldn't be surprised if your prices go up later. You know, $100 still seems very reasonable.
Oh, I wouldn't. They'll definitely go up at some point.
I mean, they should. I think
there's also the thing too of kind of looking at, you know, there are as a kind of handful of, you know, this is what people in our industry charge, and so staying within that wheelhouse, but also not leaving money on the table. Is that because, like, you know, if so-and-so who's been doing this for a decade is charging X amount and I'm charging more to them, and, you know, that can look a particular way, but that can also be very much dependent on market and setup and overhead and those sort of things.
Yeah.
So
it could also be their sign to go like, hey, you know, I think you're worth, you know, 125, 150 or whatever it may be. And maybe you just don't know it yet, you know, to the other person in your field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it's pretty interesting. We definitely felt like when we got it, we were like, you know, we felt like it was value. You know, we felt like that was it. That's all just for that's so cool. Okay, that was worth it. You know, when you think about if we were cheaper, then we must have spent around like maybe $75 or something. Then I don't know, probably around that.
Sounds right.
I just genuinely don't remember. But it's like when you think of okay, well, instead of, you know, we can skip a nice dinner and get a nice portrait.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't feel like it was like and I mean, I've gotten so obsessed with quality lately. Just the man, there's some book, I can't remember the title. It was, I got to look it up now. Read this book recently, and it was, I don't know, it's kind of about a guy going crazy, but a lot of it was about quality. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Have you ever heard of this?
Mm-mm.
If you're ever interested, it's a good, quick read, but this guy he lost his mind, and he's on a motorcycle trip with his son, and they're using, you know, maintaining a motorcycle is kind of this long metaphor through the book of just quality and hands-on things and time spent with things, and it's about his own sanity and that kind of stuff, you know. But anyhow, it is true. You're like, man, if everybody, no matter what you did, just cared about like, what's the best version of this I can do?
Yeah.
No matter what you think about your career or your job currently, just think like, I'm here, I'm doing it, let's do it top tier.
Yeah.
You know, because so many people don't even hit the base level expectations.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like they don't even, if you go, this is the minimum it takes to do this job, most people are still thinking, okay, but how can I skip that step? I can still get it done without that one part, right?
Yeah.
You know, and so this is one of those things where you can't skip steps. The quality has to be there or it doesn't work, you know?
Yeah.
And those are things worth paying for. It's like, you know, you get a cheap table that breaks after a year or two and you're just like,
Yeah, it's disposable.
I mean, I can get another one, but I'm so sick of buying tables. And then if you've ever owned any kind of furniture or solid thing where you're like, I guess I didn't realize this thing's been, like, we've had this for like 15 years now.
Yeah.
Wow, it's still pretty good, you know?
Yeah.
And then you realize, okay, I think it's worth spending that. You know, I think somebody was talking about, I don't know who said it, or maybe I read it or heard it, I don't know, but it was about that's one of the things that poor people do that's different than rich people. You know, a poor person, it's like, I don't have money for the good coat. You know, I can't spend $200 on this coat, which is understandable. But then they end up buying, you know, a $50 coat every year, whereas that $200 coat would have lasted them a lifetime maybe, you know? And that's one of the things that actually is working to keep them impoverished, you know, whether it's intentional or not, I don't know. But it's like, if they could just get the $200 jacket, it's like, okay, we bought the jacket. We never buy that again. Now we can work on the other expenses, and pretty soon you have the things you need, and you don't have to spend as much money all the time.
Yeah, totally.
Kind of like getting groceries versus fast food, right? You know, and this is one of those similar things. It's like, you know, quality, it's worth it. It's like, yeah, you could take as many pictures as you want on something else, but this is going to be so different. And when you look at it, like you said, you're going to remember that moment, remember that time, that experience, and I don't know, even just the way you look. You know, it's like when I look at my wife. And that, you know, there's more of a connection to that. It's hard to describe.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like I'm actually seeing her how I would see her in person.
A lot of that is due to, so the chemistry is only sensitive to UV light, which is blue light.
Mm-hmm.
And so certain features are a little bit more predominant. Colors translate a little bit different. So like if you have super light eyes, your eyes, like blues go more white, reds go more black.
Okay.
So for people with like big, like husky blue eyes, they go like White Walker eyes. They're like just lovely.
Just popping out.
People with freckles, they look like 3D coming off of their face. So
wow.
there's certain things that just like really pop. I get a lot of people that will get emotional and cry when I'm doing the fixing part because they'll be like, I see my grandmother right now, or I look like my dad in this photo, or something along those lines. And it's because they're seeing themselves in a way which I consider to be probably one of the truest versions of themselves. But it's different than what they see in the mirror every day, which I think is, and to be honest too, I mean, especially with like my particular rig is like, it's razor sharp, man. There is nothing that this is not going to pick up. I mean, it can make a baby look old. So like there's nobody looks younger in a tintype, which can come with its own.
But you also don't look. It's maybe younger and older is the wrong way. It's like there's a maturity that's put on it.
Yeah,
I don't know how to describe it because like again, when I was flipping through, you know, your Instagram, it's like there are obviously younger people on here. It's like they don't all of a sudden look like old, war-torn, withered, you know, hard life people.
Yeah.
But there is something that just looks. Like, you know how when you look at people from like the 60s and 70s, you think like, man, they look like adults. That's an 18-year-old? They look like an adult.
Yeah.
Kind of that thing. It's like something about this style, it makes that look like a very mature person.
Yeah.
But not old. I feel like old's the wrong word for it. Because now people are going to be like, what do you mean? Like it shows wrinkles or something? You know, it's like, it's not that. It's hard to describe. But when you see it, it makes perfect sense, you know. Do you ever think about, I mean, now that this is your life and you've dove deep on it, it's like thinking about what it must have been like for somebody, you know, in 1902, looking at that picture. You know, now we're so accustomed to we see this all the time. Picture, right? I can instantly take 50 right now and delete them all. I hate them.
Yeah.
And, but how often were you seeing yourself like that? You know, that had to just be an intense moment back then, getting that picture. I mean, really viewing it. You probably saw yourself in some mirrors, but even those mirrors back then were probably not nearly as good as they are today.
Yeah.
You know, so this clarity that you're seeing yourself in, that had to be a pretty intense moment.
Yeah. Well, and you know, especially back in the 1800s, I mean, it was was very common for people to get one photo made
Yeah.
in their whole entire life. So it was a moment, and that. I mean, I've got family tintypes from the 1860s.
Your personal family, or
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, last time I was visiting family up in Kentucky, my aunt gave me an envelope with all of our old family tintypes. It was really neat.
Did she know you were doing this at the time?
Yeah.
That's really cool. Had you even known about those before you started this?
Nope, she surprised me with them.
Dude, some of these old people where they're like, "Oh yeah, we just got tintypes." And you're like,
Yeah.
"What? You never talked about this?"
Yeah.
Because I guess because they grew up with it, they just don't realize how cool and rare it is now.
Yeah.
You know, is there I mean, have you been to any kind of museum or anything for this? Is there a place that goes through I mean, because at this point, I mean, how challenging is it to find, someone who's so into this that you could still learn even more? You know what I mean?
I mean, there's a handful that kind of specialize more into the, I would say, historical side of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they dig into, more so than. I mean, I would consider myself as more of a commercial photographer, and I mean, from a business standpoint on this. But there are certain people within the process that they want to dig into all of the history of it, and they want to dig into all of the literature and everything that they can do, and they're extremely knowledgeable about it. And so,
boy, that's got to be a real. That's got to be a very interesting person, but boy, you got to have a certain amount of weird to go. Which I like.
Yeah.
I love those people.
Yeah.
But it's like, boy, when you start that conversation, you better be prepared for it.
Oh, big time. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's certain things speak to certain people for whatever reason, just kind of due to their life experience. And so it's interesting to meet people that approach it from a different aspect, because I appreciate the history and I educate myself on the history, but I don't spend time trying to deep dive into old literature and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
I was just thinking little things, how fun it would be to just see someone's setup from, 1895 or whatever, and just look at it. And now that because the more you work with that equipment, the nuance, like just the edges of the box you're working on. Things just become, so second nature to you that now when you look at other people's equipment, you're like, oh, they rounded off that corner. I wonder what they did that for. Like just these little nuances where, because also they were doing it. How many people were doing it back then? That was a specialty, right?
Yeah.
So they would have had to have been creating all their own things, right? I mean, there was no, like in the early 1900s, I mean, how many people are going out to buy cameras and do this?
Well, once the early 1900s, photography got quite a bit easier.
Right.
So it went from wet plate to then dry plate, and then film replaced that. So once things got to film, it was a whole lot cheaper. It was a whole lot accessible. It was just a whole lot easier to make images. And so that's when you started seeing more manufacturing of cameras and more kind of normalized use, opposed to the 1850s to 1880s, to where people were confined to these more kind of time sensitive. You could take a picture with even old film, pretty wham bam, and move on to the next one, and you're not stuck in a dark room huffing ether. So it was, which is one of the reasons too. It's when that stuff came along, wet plate kind of just dissipated for a lot of the point, with the exception of your historical reenactment. Think of like your Gettysburg, that sort of thing. And then people that were more into alternative processes. And so that's what kind of kept it alive.
That's a pretty tough journey that it actually made it this far.
Yeah.
That it didn't just get wholly abandoned.
Yeah. I mean,
you imagine these people in 1915, 1920, where the new technology, I don't know, when was film coming around? What year do you think that was? Let's just make it up. But let's just say it's 1920, film's coming around, I don't know. But there were a couple purists, right, who were like, I'll never switch to film. The plate captures so much more. And because it is I think that is the difference with it, is similar to, it's like when you make a copy of a copy of a copy, right? Things degrade. Yeah. Right. And essentially, before we got to digital, that's what you're doing, right? You're making a copy, and then I got to take this copy and make another copy when you were talking about film. And if we, but when you're doing that plate, there's no copy. It's direct capture. Yeah. Instant. You're getting it. There is no degradation from transferring it to something else. Yeah. So there's going to be detail on there that is greater. It's got to be greater than early film.
Yeah. Well, even and what people love about film so much is the grain and the grit that gives it its texture and look. And I mean, if you were to put a tintype under a microscope, you could get into like the pores of your face. So there's no grain or
really
or grit.
That detailed?
It's that sharp. And so, I mean, I don't have a microscope or the time.
Buddy, I think you just found your new content for just for funsies and promotion. Yeah. It's like get a buddy's microscope or go to some high school science lab, get some time, but show those details of that, because that's fascinating to think you could just slowly zoom in and it just keeps going.
The threads of a shirt. And
and to know that like how great is camera technology, now on your phone. Yeah. But it still reaches that granular level real fast when you zoom in on it. Yeah. Wow, I didn't know it was that detailed. But I mean, that makes sense, I guess. It's just photons of light, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I mean, you still feel like you're kind of at the beginning of this, right? In terms of your journey. I mean, yes, it's a business and that part's very serious. But as far as the art form, like you're still just beginning. Like there's a lot of stuff to explore here.
Oh yeah, big time.
What do you think some of the stuff you want to get into next?
I mean, definitely more of the ambrotypes, more landscape stuff, and kind of focus on that and see where that leads, along with some more kind of still life, kind of more on the fine art side of floral.
Yeah. Can you do any long exposure nighttime photography with these?
I mean,
you go out on a full moon. Can you point it up at the sky and see anything, or point it at if the moon's casting just enough light on a nature scene? Can you?
You're always dependent on what the available UV light is, and so
that's right.
At different times of the day, there's different amounts of UV light. So could it be done? Depends on the conditions and depends on your patience. Am I going to do it? No.
No. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, interesting. Where do you think your first trip's going to be for nature?
Colorado, New Mexico.
Yeah. What do you think is going to be easier with your chemicals, Colorado or New Mexico?
Depends on elevation.
One's really dry, one's got elevation, right?
Yeah. Most of the travel I do in New Mexico is kind of northern, kind of high desert mountains anyways. So it shouldn't be tremendously different, but that's really those two places I've spent a lot of time at and have a lot of pins saved for places. So more of just going out and spending the day just making art and just being away from humans, that sort of thing.
Are you just going to carry do you just put everything in a wagon when you're doing that? I mean, how are you going to transport all this to where you want to go?
I got a Tacoma.
Well, first of all, fantastic choice. I have a Tacoma. Yeah. Wonderful pickup.
Yeah, fantastic pickup.
But I mean, like if you go to like a national park or something, you're going to park on the side wherever, but then are you going to take the trail and carry some stuff out there with you? Like, do you have to get a backpack, or how does this work?
More often than not, I'll need to be, my dark room's I'll set that up on my tailgate.
Okay.
So I'll need to be semi close to the truck to be able to make a mad dash back once I do the exposure and develop it.
Yeah. Well, that's great. You got the perfect truck for it then.
Yeah.
It can go right off the road wherever you need to go, man, as long as the park's allowing you to do it, right? Yeah. That's going to be so much fun, man. I can't wait to think about the people you're going to meet too when somebody's just hiking by or something and sees you sprinting to your truck, developing this, and you get to start working on that. That's going to be pretty fun. That's exciting, man. What do you think was the biggest? What do you think was the biggest obstacle getting into this?
having the courage to start.
Really?
Yeah. Just to like actually do it.
What was keeping you from it?
The thing that smothers courage, fear, man. Yeah.
Well, what was the fear for you?
Well,
What-
it's
what
the
were you
fear of-
thinking?
It's the fear of the unknown, and the fear of going for something that there isn't a clear path, going for something that is extremely difficult and is extremely nuanced to where you're on an uphill battle from the get-go of just as far as learning it well enough to where you can stick your hand out and ask for money.
Mm-hmm.
And then doing that in a way to where hopefully enough people show up and want to do business with you that you can survive. And so, the biggest thing for me was, especially going from my previous profession was, let's just say, highly capitalistic. And it was take, and with no creative expression, and the sustainability there for like true mental health, I knew was just like a fast track to just not a place I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so on the other side of that, it's like, well, I think I want to go over there, but it doesn't have the same kind of just like open path and like feeling of safety of that. And then when you tell everybody in your life, they're like, hey, I'm going to go do this. And they're like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? You know what I mean? And it's, they want to see you succeed, but they also don't know, not everybody knows how to support you when they don't know what you're doing. And
it's probably weird for them too, knowing there's not a lot of support you can give you anyway. Like, this is the thing that you just have to, it's like you're going to be alone on this, figuring it out.
Yes.
They can be polite, but there's not a lot they can do to help.
No.
Yeah.
And
so they probably don't know how to process that either.
Yeah. And so, just getting started was the hardest part. What I found, what I wasn't expecting, when I actually started digging in, was the process. Like, I just wanted to make pretty things and provide a service that made people happy. Like, that was the goal. That was what I wanted to do. But then when I started digging into it, it was like really life-changing in the fact of like, I found this craft that was really meditative.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're doing this, like, you have to be present, man. And because if you're not, you're going to see it. And so my brain can be pretty relentless at times. And so having an expression that gave me the ability to just like be present and focus on this was like something that I wasn't expecting. And then so now that became like my safe space. And so once I started really, really digging in, it was just addictive in that aspect, because even on the frustrating days, to where it's like you're dealing with chemical issues, you're dealing with troubleshooting that you weren't expecting, there's still this like groove and like energy to it that is really, really, really positive for me. And you get these like immediate results, even if they're not the results that you're looking for.
Right.
You're still getting results. So the finding that kind of meditative space really made me just like dig in even more, because I wasn't counting on that. And that being said, it gave me the energy and just to go all in for it.
Yeah, that's important, man. The amount of people you think about out there who don't embrace whatever weird hobby they're thinking about, you know, it's like, how much depression and anxiety and things could we curb, you know, that everyday, because like everybody's stressed all the time about things. And it's like, just having that outlet, how important that is to go, yeah, this 8-hour shift I'm putting right now, this sucks. I hate this. But when I get out of here, I get to go to my garage or whatever. I'm going to work on this thing. Or, me and my friend who are into this, we're meeting up. We're going to try. We don't know what the hell we're doing, but it's so much fun. And just those little things, man. It's like just embracing that hobby for the sake of the hobby.
Yeah.
And just going like, I don't know, man. Maybe it'll make money. Maybe it won't. If it does, that would be incredible. But we have another friend. I'm hoping to get her on the show soon. And she's just got this fascinating, similar story where her passion is food, and I don't know the full detail story, so if she comes on, it'll get cleared up. But she was just doing like meal prep for people for work, like when I work at this job, but I'm going to bring stuff in to sell to my coworkers for their meal prep. They're spending too much money online, and these meals don't even look good. My cooking's better than this. I could do that, right?
Yeah.
And I think then it turned into like kind of a small catering business. And I don't know the steps in between, but at this point, one of the coolest things they do is they have a booth at the Texas State Fair now that serves like, they're more like soul food, like very filling. It might be like mac and cheese with bacon and things on it at the fair. But she cooks a lot of like really good soul food and like Southern soul food. And it's like when we've gone to the fair the last couple of years and they're there, and it's like, they're working hard. They're putting in these long days. You can tell that's hard. But like you can do the simple math of like, oh, this is probably pretty lucrative. This was probably very life-changing for them, and this is probably allowing them to do so much more in that same lane of stuff that they enjoy doing. And it all started with a damn meal prep at work.
Yeah.
Just thinking, I could do that better, and I like doing this,
Yeah.
And so we go and we see their long line, and we talk to, we're like, hey, I know you're busy. Just want to say hi. Things like they're going great, and like they'll throw us a quick little, take some food, whatever. And I think last year they had to like snake their line around, like they had to put in a couple barricades to make the line not block the flow of traffic. And it's like, God, don't you just love people succeeding in something they enjoy?
Yeah.
And it's, if you would have told someone early on, like you would never say, my goal is to have a booth at the State Fair of Texas. That wouldn't have been the goal. It was just, I like doing this. I'm going to see where it goes.
Yeah.
And then now look at this. Now, because even money aside, they got kids and stuff. It's like, how much fun is that going to be to look back on your life and be like the fun, weird people who worked the fair booth? It's like, that's the kind of life I want to live, where you're doing these interesting things. And like your experience with these moments with these people, it's like, how many of those moments do you get with fun people at the fair? It's like those connections you're talking about. And it's like, just how many more people, if they kind of embraced whatever that weird little itches they have, I've always wanted to try this or that. It's like, man, if it's not going to make you broke, go do it. Go do it. And even if it's going to make you broke, can you be broke for a little bit?
Yeah.
Because it might be worth that little broke period.
There was
that happiness that's going to come with it in the long run.
Big time.
Yeah.
There's a quote in Carl Jung's process of individuation where he's talking about doing your work in solitude, intentionally and conscientiously, and new friends will come find you.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, that's great.
Personally, I found that to be very true within this, because especially getting started in the pandemic, so much of the work in R&D that I was doing, it was basically in a shut down world, or a world at, half capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been really, really fascinating to see just who shows up sometimes, and the relationships that I've gotten to build just off of this, of people just saying, hey, I found your work, and I would love for you to come work our event, or I would come to do that. And they just kind of come out of the woodwork. And so I think there is something to be said. I mean, your friends that, I would go out on a limb to say that the state fair was not in their business model, but somebody came to them and found them.
100%.
And so, when you have to dig in to be able to get that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's great advice. Got to be that fearless person, right? Yeah. and it's in a world of people telling you like, sounds risky. I don't know.
I feel like there's moments in life to where if you don't have borderline, like, psychotic amount of confidence from time to time, and nobody else is.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's what it takes sometimes to be able to like get you through those moments, to get through those, like that next door.
Yeah.
And if you can't muster that up from time to time and be like, I've got this, I'm going to make it happen because that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's hard for other people to get that behind you.
Yeah.
And so like, no matter what the endeavor is, no matter whether it's arts or starting a business or that, it's sometimes you have to muster up that ability to like do it for yourself and do it with like everything you have. And then fake it till you make it, you know?
I mean, it's great advice because artists in general, you know, like I get a lot of stand-up comics, a lot of musicians on here. That's kind of the hook of the show. You know, I always say it's music, comedy, and more. So you fall under the and more, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, just still in that artistic lane, obviously, that's usually something the artist doesn't have, right? Most artists are always, I'm a fraud. Like they're going to catch on. You get that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
They all lack the confidence. And then I think too, like I think a lot more artistic people. I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Like maybe people who are not excelling at things like sports or something, for instance, right? Sports will teach you those lessons of confidence, that fake it till you make it, right? But a lot of artists didn't go into that. They didn't like that. That's why a lot of them went into art. You know, it's usually there's people who blend into both, but a lot of times it's kind of different camps, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, when you see like a macho athlete or something who's got that full head of confidence, you know, and it looks really kind of like it can look off-putting to some artistic people, right? But it's like, hey, they're doing a lot of what you're trying to do, which is you didn't see the 10,000 hours they spent alone working on that sport. You know, they're artists in their own way. It's just they have muscles and they're doing these physical things that are a little different and a little intimidating, right? You don't think of like I'm not even a huge football player, but it's like you don't think of like an offensive lineman as like an artist, but it's a craft like anything else, right?
Yeah.
And it's like if you're going to make it in something high level like the NFL, you have to have an overwhelming amount of confidence behind you because it's going to get so hard so often, right, that you're going to be the only person in your corner working on you right now. And if you back out and you go like, I don't know, probably not good enough, you know, there's nobody there. And I think artists have a hard time. You know, artists want to be like most of them want to be very modest, very nice people. You want to be friendly, nice people, modest. I don't want to be too, you know, bombastic. I'm great. I'm amazing at this, you know. And it's like, yeah, maybe you don't have to say all that out loud, but you should be saying it internally all the time. You know, you should be thinking like, I'm not the best, but I'm improving. I put in this work. I'm getting better. I'm doing it. Look how far I've come since a year ago trying this, you know. Yeah. I think that's a hard inner dialogue for a lot of people to get in artistic endeavors. You know, I think it's just not their style.
Yeah.
But they would benefit so much from just looking yourself in the mirror and be like, hey, you know, you didn't know anything about this. You found that mentor. You went and took the lessons with her. You shadowed her. You're doing it now. You got your first customer. It's like you're doing it, you know, and just giving you that self-motivation rather than going, I don't know, I've only got one customer so far.
Yeah.
So hey, that's one more than you had a year ago.
Yeah.
That's something to build on. That's a huge achievement. You got some stranger to give you money for the hobby that you enjoyed. I mean, come on, we're rolling now. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's great advice. Like, you got to have that confidence, even when it's kind of,
well, I mean,
tough.
And at the end of it, I mean, it's more days, and no matter what you're creating, and I mean, I wake up some days and I'm like, what am I doing with my life? You know, and then
I don't think you're doing it right unless you say that every now and then.
No, I think that's part of it.
Yeah,
it's part of it. And
yeah,
because it's interesting how those days usually pan out too. I had one recently, and get to the studio, and it's like wake up on one of those things to where I'm like, am I making the right decisions right now? You know, and doubt is a healthy thing to have. And, you know, I don't have a business partner. I mean, like, this whole operation is snout to tail all me, man.
Yeah.
And so, like, these conversations, these, like, you know, business meetings that I have with myself, it's like on the way to work in my truck, and then
they usually happen when the bills are due.
Well, and then I get there, and then just have, like, an interaction with a human being that is, like, very much documenting a special part of her life. And she was just overwhelmed by like how much joy she got out of the process. And so like, man, talk about kismet timing, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's every once in a while on that stuff, it's like, yeah, you got to have confidence to make it happen and to like turn nothing into something. But there's always the doubt there too. And sometimes what the confidence can't get you around, it's others people, like just the random appreciation and love that you get from a complete stranger, you know, that is more impactful than they'll ever know, you know?
Yeah. The reminder of like, oh, we loved this. This is so much fun. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always fun when someone's giving you money and they're also thanking you. You know, like they're not even thinking about the transaction.
Yeah.
They're like, "This was great, thanks."
Yeah, it's my favorite.
Yeah, that's a good time, man. It's awesome that you found that. You know, and it's awesome that you know, like you still have room to grow with it. Like you haven't even gotten close to the max potential of what you can do with this, and in terms of both just the artistic side as well as the income side. It's like there's still so many avenues you get to explore.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting, like 4 or 5 years from now, to see where this has gone from here.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's going to be fun, yeah. Well, look, man, I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
Get you out of here. But where's the best place if people want to book appointments with you? Is it all through social media, or you like your website? What do you do
I mean, the best place to go, which you can link my website from my Instagram, but if you go to my Instagram, Fox_Tintype, that's the best place to see what I've got moving and grooving. And
if you're listening, I'll
like
link
that.
it all up on the shows. It'll all be there, so it's
Cool.
easy to find. But yeah, man, it's great. And then remind me again the 2 areas you're working out of right now.
It's a shop called Hey Koniko / Good Boy Coffee. It's right off of Main Street, kind of behind the Double Wide.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's the main spot.
Yes, sir.
And then here and there you'll do some pop-ups and just keep an eye out.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, dude, it's awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Appreciate it.
And can't wait to see it in the future, man.
Yeah. Take care.
The I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.